recording here. All right, if you are ready, sir, I am ready.
Ready as I'll ever be.
Let's do it.
Let's
All right,
do it.
hey, we are here at the 2017 MAX Conference, part of Northwest Credit Union Association, and I'm here with Justin Freeman. How are you, Justin?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Good, good. You are the owner of Bagel Sphere and Novella Cafe, and you're speaking here at the conference. You're a busy man.
That's right. When I'm not putting holes in bread, I come to credit union conferences to talk. It's exciting. I'm glad to be here.
There you go. So give us a quick summary on what you'll be talking about here today, and then later we'll kind of connect the dots to credit unions.
Yeah. So I'm doing part of a 3-person keynote this afternoon. It's me, it's a person from Idaho, and one from Washington, and we were asked to come and talk about a specific industry in our state that has some relevance, and so I was asked to come and represent Oregon to talk about food processing.
Okay.
In addition to the bagel processing business, prior to that, the past few years I ran an organic food processor and wholesaler. We did business up and down the West Coast. And then I serve on the board at Oregon Tilth, which is one of the largest organic certifiers in the country. And so we represent about 1,600 organic farmers and food processors across the country.
Okay.
And so the goal today is to help people understand what food processing is in Oregon, why it's fun, and I think kind of with the theme of the conference, how we remain relevant to our customers.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife will love you because anything organic, we are all in.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's good stuff. We try and do a good job in Oregon.
Right. So tell me about some takeaways from your talk, because it deals with collaboration, cooperatives, all that type of stuff. So
yeah. So really, I think going back to that idea of relevance, I think there's a couple of things. We've got, when you look at what makes Oregon food processing products relevant to our customers, it's around the diversity of the products that we produce, the quality that we bring to market, and then also the sustainability that we're looking to infuse into our processes to make sure that that what we're doing today can continue on into the future. So really kind of diving into a few elements of what each of those represent and how those tie together to remain relevant in our market.
Okay, and so connecting the dots to credit unions, what's the message for them? What can they take back to their credit and go, hey, I listened to this guy and he's about organic food, and they're like, organic food? What does that have to do with a credit union? Come on.
Well, so I think there's a couple. I know. I think there's a couple things. One is obviously there's some good cross applicability there in terms of the principles of relevance, and our job for building market share, and I think I remember hearing yesterday that right now the Northwest credit unions are at 50% market share, which is amazing. The goal is 75% by 2025. I think there's a banner right there that actually.
There it is, right?
Yeah,
there.
That says that. And so the task to gain market share, I think, is really all about not just maintaining but driving and increasing relevance. And we have some similarities between the two industries, between our industry and the credit union movement. And really it's about taking that process of awareness to desire to action, right? So for us in the food industry, it's how are we gaining mind share?
Okay.
Mind share comes first.
Right.
How are we getting people to think about and know and understand what we do, especially in a crowded marketplace? The grocery stores, we live in an amazing time. Shelves are full of tremendous products. A lot of them have a lot of great values. So how are we gaining mind share and awareness?
Gotcha.
Then how are we taking and converting that and building off of that to build desire?
Okay.
And so that's heart share.
Gotcha.
How are we getting people to care about what we do? And I think the same corollary is there for credit unions as well, right? Of the 50% who are currently credit union members, the 50% who are not, what's the gap there? Is it a gap in mind share? Are people not aware of what credit unions are providing? Or is it a lack of heart share? If they know, do they see why they should care? Do they see why it's relevant? And then the last step there is conversion to action, right? And that's where we get market share. In our industry, it's stomach share.
Getting hungry already.
We're trying to get people to trust us with their mouths.
Right.
Just like credit unions are trying to get people to trust them with their wallets. And so thinking about that is really important. And not just doing it once. I can get you to take that first bite of my food most of the time, unless I'm selling you something really weird, then I might have to kind of coax you into it a little bit more, work on that heart share a little bit.
Yeah.
But if I've got you and I've convinced you to trust me, and what I deliver doesn't meet your expectations, in our region we have what I like to call curious and conscious eaters. People who are curious, they want to try new things, they want to try new flavors. Conscious, people who are looking for health, nutritional, sustainability, and food integrity values tied into what they're buying. And if what I'm promising you doesn't deliver, then I'm going to betray the desire. I'm going to break your heart.
Right.
I'm
not going to come back. Right.
Exactly. I'm going to shut out your. I'm going to be shut out of your mind because I'm going to betray your trust there as well. So I'll lose heart share and mind share, which will cause me to lose market share. And so I think the same thing, that same thought process is useful for credit unions, which is to make sure, okay, our marketing teams are doing a solid job of going out and building awareness and building buy-in, and our member services teams are doing a great job of getting people in the door and converting them and having a great experience. But are we making sure that everything else, the rest of our brand promise, whether that's our systems, our processes, our technology, our product offerings, that those are truly relevant and that they match what we told people at the beginning? And so that's really our job as food processors to do that, because we have to prove it to you every meal.
Right.
And I think the other thing is that this doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? So we're not just trying to gain stomach share. We're trying to take stomach share from somebody else. There's somebody else out there,
just trying to do the same thing that you're doing.
Exactly. And with great pride and great integrity and desire and intention and passion and all the things that we like to have as well. And so we need to be thoughtful and we need to be mindful about how we can continue to improve. One thing I kind of always tell people is, and excuse me for going along here.
No. I'm very interested. This is very cool stuff.
One thing I always tell people is, and it's interesting too. I think there's another good corollary between credit unions and food, which is that we tend to be more collaborative people. The credit union movement still self-selects for collaborative people.
No doubt.
So does a lot of the food industry, especially in the Northwest. The sustainable movement in particular, we are all really collaborative people. We don't like to compete. We prefer the collaborative word, and I think that may just be something, maybe something in our childhoods. We need to go lay down on the therapist couch and talk for a while about why that is. But we are collaborative people as a whole, and so. I think, though, what I've come to kind of help understand and talk with some folks in the food industry about is we still do have to compete because, like I said, we owe it to our market. We owe it to those conscious and curious eaters to compete. But I think there's a different mindset that you can bring to competition, and I think credit unions can do the same, which is we compete with, not against. And so I'll use really quickly an example from Eugene, which is where I live. So we're known as Tracktown, USA. We have
Tracktown?
Tracktown, yeah.
Okay.
So we have
the runner.
Yeah,
okay, Nike.
Steve Prefontaine,
Gotcha.
Nike.
Yeah.
People running around a circle making left-hand turns. Very exciting.
Kind of like NASCAR without the car.
Right. The wrecks are way safer. But if you've ever been to a track meet, they're really exciting. We have some of the best track meets in the world in Eugene, and nobody runs their best time when they're running alone.
You're right.
You only run your best time when you're competing with somebody else. When you're running side by side, somebody who's striving to do their very best and outdo you, is when you run faster. And you see that when you get these world-class, even the Olympians don't run their fastest time when they're alone. They run their fastest time when they're competing with other people. And who wins in that is not just the people who are competing, but the people who are watching.
Oh, it's phenomenal to watch.
And so I think that's another takeaway I'd have for people as you're looking to grow your market share. Be thankful for your competitors, be they other friendly credit unions, maybe some of your neighborhood banks, even some of the big guys. Because if you're competing with, and granted some of them may use tactics to compete against, but if you see it as competing with, remember that they're going to push you to be your very best. You'll be better than you would be in a vacuum. And so the same thing is true for us in food, where we are better because there are innovators out there. And so it's an iron sharpening iron thing where we're pushing one another to be our very best for our customers.
What do you guys, I'm just curious out of here, what do you guys collaborate on? It's like, hey, I don't know, I'm at a loss. How do you guys, I know how credit unions collaborate. They collaborate on does the technology work out well? How are you doing with the regulations, or what are your lending number, all that type of stuff. But as far as the food industry and in your neck of the woods, how do you guys collaborate?
Yeah, we really have to work together on a lot of things. One of those is obviously regulation. We need to make sure, just like credit unions do, that we're speaking with a clear and powerful voice. Our legislators have a hard job. They've got a lot of things on their table, and we need to make sure that when we're coming to them, that we're bringing good ideas and good solutions, and that we're representing a large number of employers. And so we try and work together. Obviously, we have advocacy groups where we try and work together around regulation, but more informally outside of that, you'll see a lot of collaboration in infrastructure projects. A couple that I worked on when I was with the organic food processor and wholesaler, we wanted to source more organic Northwest grain. And so you can't just go out and actually knock on farm doors and say, hey, would you plant a bunch of organic wheat? Because the wheat has to go somewhere. Right. It has to go through a cleaning facility before it can get to market. And so that project, for instance, was an effort of multiple companies working together to find who could build the facility, what other types of business we could bring to make that worthwhile. And then it was one where we all ended up winning, rising tide lifting all boats. And so there's definitely some collaboration there around kind of common infrastructure type projects. And of course that varies from which sector of the food industry that you're in. But the food industry as well is home to a lot of collaborative and cooperative models. There's a lot of cooperative dairies, for instance, that are out there, and different vegetable packers, and so that's another thing where there is some similarity to credit unions as well.
Yeah, there's a saying going on in the industry that I've started to hear a lot more of this year. It's we have to collaborate to compete, or we have to cooperate to compete, and it sounds like that's the same with your industry as well.
I think so, because we, even in Oregon, even our largest processors are still relatively small fish in a big pond. We've got some big established consumer packaged goods companies out there who do things really well, and they have shelf space because they've earned it. And if we want to be present there, if we want to have the right to be in front of the consumer, we need to make sure that we're doing our best. And so sometimes for us, lacking the economy of scale, especially as small processors, we have to work together. Lane County, which is the county that I'm in Eugene, we actually recently hired an individual to be our food and beverage sector strategist.
Oh, really? Okay.
His whole job is to kind of play matchmaker and pull people together and solve problems and introduce people. He actually introduced me to this conference.
Oh, really?
Somebody reached out to Micah and said, hey, who in the state of Oregon would be good to talk about food processing at a credit union conference? And so for better or worse, here I am. Actually, for better, I think. But so, we have now somebody whose job it is to find connections and gaps and say, oh, you're working on this? Well, this person's working on that. The two of you should collaborate. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, because before the interview I was like, okay, how are we going to connect the dots here? But now you've made it crystal clear, so thank you for that, Justin.
Absolutely.
Very cool stuff. Very cool.
Yeah.
I could go on and on, because I really enjoy the conversation about how other industries are somewhat similar to credit unions and how they collaborate and how they work together for a greater cause. And so you have educated me, sir, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing I'd say for your audience, the takeaway, is to think about what it means to serve food processing businesses. If you are a credit union and you're looking to serve those folks, I'd say one of the best things that you could do is educate yourself. It's a unique industry, and we've got a lot of different needs. One thing that I found interesting in particular, I'll just kind of throw this in there. I was talking with a banker at a private bank a couple years ago. We were at a dinner, and he was mentioning to me the challenge he has. He said he had an organic farmer come to him and was looking to get a loan against his upcoming year's crop production. And the credit he was willing to extend was based off of the conventional commodity price of wheat. And I explained to him, I said, well, but he's an organic grower. And I said his crop is worth a lot more. And he wasn't really sure quite what that meant. So he was willing at the time, for instance, to value the crop at $6 per bushel, which was the conventional commodity price, when the organic price was $19 a bushel.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Wow. And so we sat that night and I kind of talked things through, and he took away some strategies that he was going to go talk with their credit committee about how they could be a little more granular in their focus and meet the needs of these organic producers more effectively. And so that's what I would say is, if you're going to be serving food processors, ask us what we need.
Yeah.
Get out there and know us. And
Yeah.
we're a diverse group. That's the other thing. We've got, like I said, dairies. We've got grain people. We have fruit and vegetable people, beer and wine. Get in there, find out what we need, because it's going to be unique to all of us.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Great message to end on. Justin, thank you so much for the education and hanging out with us for a few minutes. This is cool stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. Glad
And
to be
again,
here.
my wife is probably a big fan because we're all organic in our house. So
All right.
well done, sir.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh, that was so cool.